Hello, everybody! I'm Meso,
I'm LJ.
and streaming to you from a golden beach, this is NINJAGO. Are we good? Are we live?
We are definitely live. I could not tell you if we're good or not.
Well, please let us know. It's been a bit. There's some cobwebs, some dust. You know, just let us know how we sound. It actually hasn't been like that long.
I was about to say, I think
it
it's
has
been like 3 months.
better than the last gap,
True.
which was what, like 9-10 months.
Yeah, no, it was about 10 months.
That's crazy. Wait, hold up. No. If I'm seeing this correctly, NINJAGO 39 was May 27th, 2025. NINJAGO 40 was April 7th, so it was almost a year. It was 11
jeez.
months.
Goodness gracious.
Well, yeah, just let us know, how the audio sounds, leveling, if anybody needs to be increased, if there's like lag or whatever. But thank you all for joining. I think this is going to be a fun one, something a little bit different. How are you doing today, Eljay?
Doing all right. Tired, but that is not abnormal.
True. Just coming off of what, like a 6-day work week?
Yeah.
Are you over 60 hours yet, or have they been kind enough to let you work less?
I've been working a lot less. This is more abnormal than it isn't. I was just covering some time for someone.
That's fair.
I'm working over 40 for sure, but not the brutal 55 to 60 or more that I was like a year or so ago. So that's nice.
That's fair.
But
well,
um,
I'm glad to hear it.
Real quick,
Yes.
just everyone, let me know how we both sound. I tried to make us as even as possible, but let me know and I can make any adjustments if need be.
Yeah, because I have a very weird voice and vocal inflections.
I
feel like I oscillate.
I feel like a part of that is your equipment and how you use it.
I drastically need to get a better mic. What do you mean how you use it, though?
Dude, you're constantly coming off the mic and being up on it, and you're there's no consistency, Meso.
Well, since we've been on call tonight, I haven't changed my position. But you are right. When I like swivel my chair or go like whoa like this, I'm pretty far away. But I try to talk like this, when I can.
Fair enough.
Either way, I definitely need an upgrade.
Yeah.
For now, let me just kind of lay the foundation, because even though it's a simple premise for today's episode, the background needs a little bit of explaining. For those who do not know, Death Battle is a popular internet series about, like 16 years old, 15 years, 14 years, I don't know, a decade and a half-ish. They were, I believe, owned by Screw Attack, before Screw Attack was purchased, I believe, by Rooster Teeth, and then Rooster Teeth kind of took over the series.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, Rooster Teeth got shut down, and so then Death Battle once again kind of spun out into its own independent thing and has been producing videos ever since. The premise is incredibly simple. You take two characters from different franchises, you analyze their feats, their power levels, compare and contrast the two, and then put them head to head in a fight that usually is either pixel art animated or 3D animated or has some kind of cool animation to it, which people always like to witness. And it was announced about 9 days ago that the next death battle is Tahu versus Kai, which is pretty fun. So we just thought it would be a cool idea. Usually in the past, they've done these videos called like Death Battle Cast, where instead of doing a fully curated, kind of scripted episode culminating with a fight scene. They just kind of have a panel of people and they research the characters kind of live, impromptu, and talk about, their feats and compare their abilities. And we're kind of going to do a similar thing for this. We're just going to use our own pre existing franchise knowledge. We're going to use the Biosector 01 wiki and the Ninjago fandom wiki, as well as the help of people in the chat who, please, if we're forgetting something or if we're getting anything wrong, please feel free to chime in and correct us. And we're just going to kind of talk about it, see what conclusions we come to, and make some predictions. And then we're going to do a follow up episode when the death battle airs, talking about the results, discussing the video itself, whether we agree or disagree. And yeah, that should be a fun time.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. This has definitely generated a bit of buzz, especially within our group.
Oh yeah, I mean, Death Battle's huge. They have 6.5 million subscribers.
Oh, certainly.
They're like an insanely big channel, so it's fun to see, these two franchises we follow kind of get put in the center stage of the internet for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely curious. It's definitely one of those things where, like a property, and in this case, Bionicle. Like, we know so much about Bionicle, and there are just so many intricacies, and there are so many niche details to know that it's almost impossible for someone that isn't like well versed in it to kind of bring that to the forefront. So I'm very curious how they're going to handle it. I have watched Death Battle a lot over the years, and it's a really fun show. I understand that they've had instances where they miss something, or they forget about something, or they misunderstand a thing, and that alters the outcome. And obviously, super low stakes, but it is going to be very interesting to see how in-depth they are with something that I am very knowledgeable about. Like, now I can actually see the quality of the work, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah, no. And it's not even the first time they've touched Bionicle. About a year ago, they had one of those Death Battle casts I mentioned, which is more like informal, where it was Makuta Pterodax versus Darth Sidious.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
And
that. Who won?
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
Okay, I didn't watch it
uh,
either.
it was like an hour long, and I skimmed it a little bit, and it was them just kind of being like flabbergasted at learning the breadth of Bionicle's like lore and power scaling.
Yeah.
But I did not watch it to completion. I don't know who won.
I would.
I can't imagine Makuta losing that though.
Yeah, I also can't, but at the same time, I don't know anything about Darth Sidious. So,
I mean, he's powerful, but like, what's the thing he can do? Lightning? Like Makuta can do that and 42 other things. So
41 other things, yeah.
so I don't know, but yeah, if anybody knows, yeah, Tristan Waits 5688 says if I remember correctly, I think it was Makuta. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. That would make a lot of sense.
So this should be a good time. Just some chill, fun talk. Hopefully, you guys are well versed with both Bionicle and Ninjago, or else half of this is going to be difficult to follow. We are going to start with Bionicle because, number one, I mean, it's just we're a primarily Bionicle centric channel, and two, it's just what we're most familiar with. But trust me, I've got a lot of stuff ready for Kai, and we're going to do a deep dive on him as well. Anyone who thinks this is going to be an open and shut case one way or another, I think there's a lot more nuance here than you might be expecting. Evershadow asks, has Meso and Eljay seen Star Wars at all? I have watched all 9 movies. I think you have to.
Of the main ones, yes.
Supplemental stuff, much less.
Yeah.
Much less. But the main movies, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to get going?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right. So Tahu, I think where we have to start with Tahu and LJ, just explain for my sake and for the fans' sake, how does Death Battle typically handle characters with like varying power levels?
So generally, Death Battle will use the strongest iteration of a character. So if you have, like, what's a good example? Like, generally, its latest. Okay, they just did a Death Battle between the Traveler from Genshin Impact and Avatar Aang. And the version of Avatar Aang that they used was the one at the end of the original series. So he's kind of unlocked everything. He has the full Avatar state. Like, it's what he beat the Fire Lord with. And then
Right.
the Traveler was the version of the Traveler at the end of Genshin's campaign. So he's got all of his powers, all of his unlocks. So I imagine if I were in their shoes, I would use whatever the strongest / most current end of story version of the characters are. And for Bionicle, there are 2 points you can use. But if I were them, I know which point I would use. For Ninjago, I have no idea. I do not
That's
know.
what I think. That's what we're really gonna have to get into.
Yeah.
Bionicle's much more clear cut. I think Ninjago is way harder to define because of years upon years of power scaling, power retcons, and like just poorly defined stuff. So with like I think the important caveat there is most powerful, not most recent. That's
Yeah.
the most important thing to me. You'd think those two would be the same. It's not necessarily the same. And here's kind of like the first thing I want to start with is masks, because I am showing my Bionicle knowledge failings, because 15 minutes ago I learned something I completely forgot about Tahu that changes a lot, because Eljay mentioned something to me. I was under the impression for a while now, oh, well, what if they use, like Tahu has all the mask powers, right? But I forgot something. What did I forget, Eljay?
You forgot that if they use Tahu Nuva in this death battle, Tahu Nuva technically only has access to the How Nuva. Because in Mask of Light, 3 Rakshi completely destroyed. Also, spoilers for Ninjago and Bionicle, by the way. Just as an
Yeah,
FYI.
good luck. But I think anybody watching,
Yeah.
they get that.
But in Mask of Light, 3 Rakshi destroyed the village of Takoro, and in the process melted 5 of Tahu Nuva's Kanohi Nuva. So he only has access to the How Nuva if they use Tahu Nuva, which I honestly don't know if they will or not, because in the little end bit where they announced the next episode, they used footage of both Tahu Mata and Tahu Nuva. But if they use the latest version of Tahu Nuva, then they can't. I mean, Tahu doesn't have access to any of the Kanohi Nuva except for his own.
Which is a pretty big thing. And so they could do something, and I would find this irritating, but they could do form switching. Even if it doesn't make necessarily sense in terms of like a narrative, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They could have them cycle through their different forms mid-fight, which would make a lot more sense for Kai than it would for Tahu.
Yeah. I mean, they could do that. They could start off with like Toa Tahu, and then upgrade him to Nuva, and then pseudo downgrade him again. Like, there are options. But no, if they do Tahu Nuva, if they do the latest iteration of Tahu Nuva, then technically it should be his adaptive armor. So,
yeah.
A couple other important details that I think it's important for people to know, especially the folks listening that are more fans of Ninjago. So, Bionicle characters are often referred to as robots, and that is technically true. They're biomechanical beings, and they were created by these mythological beings called the Great Beings, and they're like 85% mechanical and 15% biological. Well,
So
Tahu,
like they're primarily made of metal, but like they have lungs and like muscle tissue.
Yes.
So,
Yep. So Tahu is what is known as a Toa. And a Toa is about 7 feet tall and usually has the ability to control an element. In Tahu's case, of course, it's fire. He can create fire, he can control existing fire, he can absorb fire, he can do a whole bunch of things with fire. Tahu also has what is called the Mask of Shielding, the Kanohi Hau. The Kanohi Hau allows him to shield himself from oncoming attacks. The catch is that it does not defend against ambush attacks, and I think that if I'm the folks making this death battle, that is an important detail to keep in mind, because who better to use an ambush attack than a ninja?
that will absolutely come into play. Even if Kai historically is not stealthy, that absolutely will factor in some capacity. Mark my
100%.
words.
Oh, yeah, no, guaranteed. A real quick question from the YouTube live chat. Timeless FR. Kind of dumb question. I don't want to Google because I would look stupid on my search history. Can Tahu talk? Yeah.
What?
Well, okay. Yes,
Does he
however.
talk English or ninjargon?
Yeah.
Probably not.
It is some robotic speech, but let's be honest. They're just going to have them speak English to each other. It's fine.
Yeah, that's too much work for them to get into. Like the technical answer. And first of all, don't feel bad about asking stupid questions. There are no stupid questions here. We're talking about the lore for two very dense series, and the fact that the answer isn't simple proves that. But like they're inside of a giant robot, and so they use what's essentially like a programming language to
Mm-hmm.
talk to each other. There's a point where they come outside of the robot and they need like a for lack of a better word, a translation patch to be able to talk to people living on a normal planet. So if you're being technical, no, they would not be able to understand each other. But Eldray is right; that's not going to factor in.
I can't imagine it would.
It'd be dumb. We don't need to worry about that. Uh, So yeah, that's the big thing. So for me, the immediate question comes to what is Tahu's most powerful iteration? And I think there's weirdly room for debate
Mm-hmm.
because you can break it into four categories. Tahu at base, his original form, where after the first year's worth of story, he collected a bunch of different masks, which got combined together into a golden mask, which let him use 12 total mask powers, correct? Or is it canonically six?
Canonically 6.
That's stupid.
Yeah. But also, he doesn't have that anymore.
Well, he could if Death Battle deems that to be his most powerful iteration.
Which
So
there's no chance.
We need to think about what those powers are. Their speed, strength, water breathing, X-ray vision, shielding, and what am I forgetting? Levitation? Did I say levitation?
I don't think he said levitation.
Yeah, levitation. So he can protect himself. He can go super fast. He can be super strong. He can see through objects or see through, like, obstructions, breathe underwater, and levitate. Not fly, but levitate. I think this will be more relevant than you may think, Elge, because there are some corollaries to Kai that we'll talk about later on.
Okay.
But that's his number one power state. His number two power state is the Toa Nuva form, where he gets upgraded. How is that quantified, Elch? Does he just get more elemental power, stronger mask powers?
Kind of. So the Toa Nuva upgrade to me was always kind of vague, and let me go ahead and bring up the BSO1 page if it hasn't been butchered. Let me see. Yeah, so BS1 says the Toa Nuva are more powerful than standard Toa for several reasons. They possess stronger armor. They are the only beings that can use Kanohi Nuva, which have more potent powers than normal Great Kanohi and can be shared with nearby allies. They have an increased amount of elemental power and a greater control over it. For instance, they can cause a delayed elemental reaction. Unlike use of regular elements, these preset effects cannot be combined. Toa Nuva are stronger, faster, and more agile than regular Toa, and they are also equivalent to the Paraka in terms of strength. The only drawback is that their elemental powers are tied to their Nuva symbols.
So they have these little physical objects that give them their powers while they're in this upgraded state. And if something happens to that object, their powers go away. That could potentially be relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know. Maybe. So my number one question, which I think we need to clarify, is you said the powers when they're in their upgraded state, their Toa Nuva forms, their powers can be shared with allies. That's
Mask
not
powers.
relevant. Mask powers. That won't be relevant because it's going to be a one-on-one fight. However, the second thing, more powerful and more of their element, we need to address that, I think. Are Toa's elements like finite? Do they have a limited supply before like their stamina runs out?
Yeah, so the Toa use elemental power in order to do all the cool, fancy things that they do. Otherwise, they need to take from the surrounding environment. So, Toa have a finite amount of elemental power before it runs out, it exhausts, and it has to recharge. And it will recharge, it just will run out, and they do need to take some time. That's why, that was the story explanation as to why the Toa Metru didn't use any elemental powers during Legends of Metru Nui, but we see them using a whole bunch of elemental powers in the books because they exhaust it when they defeated the Morbuzak. It had run out and it needed time to recharge.
Yeah. So, comment from Tristan awaits, which we should get clarified as well. Big things here, from what I've been told at least. Tahu is only resistant to fire, not immune. Is that true?
Let me see.
Because the bit about Tahu being able to absorb fire from his surroundings to recharge, to me, would imply he's pretty immune.
So, Tahu is listed as having a resistance to heat and the ability to manipulate the element of fire. He can create fireballs, absorb heat, and emit flames. When he was transformed to a Toa Nuva, as we've already gone over, those powers are greatly enhanced. So, technically, I don't know if I would say immune, but I would not consider fire to be a danger to Tahu.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree. I think that at least in terms of a one-on-one fight, if Kai attempted to use like fire on him as an attack, I think Tahu would probably just absorb it and recharge his elements that way. Kind of how I see that going. There's plenty of other ways Kai could strike at him though, as we'll get to.
Yeah.
But the important thing is, like we mentioned earlier, shortly after Tahu became a Toa Nuva, he lost access to all the other mask powers.
Yes.
So he has stronger control over fire, but he can only do the shielding. So that's the big issue, and why I think an argument could reasonably be made by the Death Battle people that Tahu with the Golden Kanohi could potentially be stronger than Tahu Nuva without them.
No. I don't believe that there is a world in which Tahu Mata with the Golden How is stronger than Tahu Nuva. Because even if Tahu didn't have access to those masks, his base level control, his physical capabilities are just inherently better. Like if I'm Tahu, I don't want to be a Toa Mata, I want to be a Toa Nuva, which we saw in the story because Tahu
Yeah.
also got devolved. He is no longer a Toa Nuva.
Yeah. Because this is kind of the weird question when you talk about like the strongest state. Tahu didn't really get more powerful as the story went on. He kind of went on like a roller coaster where he kept getting like weaker, but then more powerful and then weaker again. It's kind of strange.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like there was a period of time post mask destruction where Tahu just kind of existed, and then after a while he got a very specific thing called the adaptive armor. LJ, would you clarify what the adaptive armor is?
Sure, so the adaptive armor allows its wearer to be the master of any environment. It automatically reconfigures itself to allow whoever is using it the ability to survive and persist in that environment. So we saw it used in 2008. The Toa Nuva received their adaptive armor. Half of them had their armor adapt for the skies. So they had a whole bunch of flight mobility options. Like Pohatu had propellers for hands, Liwa had jetpacks on his shoulders, Kopaka had kind of a delta wing thing going on. The other three
Yeah.
went to the swamp, and their configuration allowed them to kind of hover. So that way they wouldn't get in any of the mutagenic swamp nastiness. They could just kind of hover around and do things. So there were a handful of other upgrades that LEGO tried to say this is the reason that we didn't give them all unique eye colors. They have like a film, and it's because of the adaptive armor. And it's definitely not because we just wanted to give them all lime eyes. But
Yeah.
so yeah.
This I think will very much come into play depending on where they stage the battle.
Mhm.
And I have an idea. I think they will probably, because it's two fire guys, I would bet money they're going to put them in like a volcano or some kind of super dangerous area with like limited mobility where they have to like jump across like lava pools.
Mhm.
So then you're going to have Tahu either being able to lava surf in his Nuva form or just fly around in his like Mystica form.
Yeah.
Um, would be what I think they would do. But we also have to keep this in mind. According to BSO1, in addition to their armor, the Toa Nuva received adaptive melee Toa tools, in addition to each receiving an adaptive proto-steel launcher.
Mhm.
The launchers adapt to the Toa's opponents rather than to their environment. These tend to take the form of existing weapons rather than original designs. For example, the Fentoka Toa Nuva's weapons shapeshifted into Midax Sky Blasters, which fired spheres of light that were effective against their Makuta foes, who were like shadow people. Um, so if Tahu with the adaptive armor is fighting Kai, his ranged weapon would shapeshift into a form that would be most effective against his opponent.
Mhm.
If they were being cheeky, it could be a water launcher.
Yeah.
Or it could just be a gun.
Tahu with a Glock.
Like let's be real here. That is totally possible. Do I think they're going to do that? No. But it would be a really funny outcome if they did.
Yeah.
Tahu just shoots Kai to death with bullets, and then it's over. Apparently, which I again didn't know until just now. Apparently, that's how it works. So
Yeah. No, 100%. And there are all other different sorts of ways that the armor adapts to an environment. So, wherever they are, as long as they give Tahu the adaptive armor, he'll be completely fine. He will not encounter any kind of a environmental hazard.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah.
Now there is one more other thing, which is, as you mentioned before, there is the downgrade that happened where 2 years after he got the adaptive armor, Tahu was basically like, "Hey, there's a plot device we need you to wield, and to do that, you have to be in your base form." So he was devolved back from a Toa Nuva back to a Toa Mata, but kept the adaptive armor. Am I
Correct.
correct on that?
You
He's
are
okay, cool.
100% correct. So Tahu, end of story, was devolved back to his original form. However, he kept the adaptive armor that we just spent a minute kind of gushing over. And let's see, I'm trying to get the picture up. It's not cooperating. There we go. So
This is going to
yeah,
be the most
he still
complicated
has
bit.
the great armor, but he's no longer a Toa Nuva. So he's lost the physical improvements, the elemental control. His elemental control is still fine. It's just not quite as powerful as when he was a Toa Nuva.
Yeah. And this is the most complicated bit. This is really, I think, what the whole death battle is going to hinge on, is this devolving, because it was done for a purpose. He was devolved so he could wear a suit of golden armor that's one of Tahu's like generation of Toa. They're the only ones that could wield it, for lack of a better word. The first, form. This golden armor can do a lot of peculiar things.
No,
Um,
no, it can actually only do one peculiar thing. And also, it wasn't made for any Toa of his generation. It was specifically for Tahu.
well, fair enough. What is the thing it can do, Elder?
The golden armor's only actual function is the destruction of solid antidermis.
What is antidermis, Elder?
I'm so glad you asked. Antidermis is a synthetic green/black substance created as a byproduct of protodermis that serves as the essence of the Makuta species.
Cool.
So, okay, there's a lot to unpack here. So, there is another species in Bionicle called the Makuta. And the Makuta originally were made out of a substance known as antidermis, and it was a solid substance. Think of it kind of like another tissue. Well, eventually, the Makuta evolved to where that antidermis became kind of a gas in nature. The unfortunate part is that this armor was created as a failsafe in case the Makuta ever went rogue, in case they needed something to basically just Control-Alt-Delete all of the Makuta all at once. The problem is that now, the Makuta are still kinda made out of antidermis, but it's a gas, so the golden armor does not affect them. However, the golden armor is still really good for destroying solid antidermis, and solid antidermis still exists in the form of a slug-like creature called a Krata. Krata inhabit suits of armor called Rakshi, and those Rakshi comprise the vast majority of the armies used by Makuta. So, in the final battle, you have just an untold amount of Rakshi on the battlefield, and the golden armor can instantly destroy the Krata in these suits of armor, just wiping them all out.
I love Bionicle, dude. You're explaining this very well, by the way. But it's like, it's so complex.
It is. It very much is. So the armor does have a byproduct. It does have a kind of a cool bonus to anyone that uses it. So Tahu, and that is whichever Rakshi he destroys with the golden armor, he can then acquire its power. Also, It is a one-time use.
Yeah.
So you
So
better have all of your Rakshi. And another important detail here is that the Makuta have 42 different powers. And when they create Rakshi, it's from their essence. It's from Antidermis. So when they make a Rakshi, it is one of their 42 different powers. So Tahu, hypothetically, can absorb 42 individual powers.
and because this is my favorite part of Bionicle is Rakshi power lore. I know some people probably got a bit lost with all that. To put it very concisely, during the final battle of the Bionicle story, Tahu used this armor to destroy and absorb the powers of Makuta's army. And I'm going to read you all the 42 Rakshi powers because doing this brings me great joy every time I get to do this.
Of course.
So everybody buckle in, grab a snack, grab a drink. I am going to read you the Rakshi powers. Here we go. Fear, poison, fragmentation, disintegration, hunger, anger, weather control, elasticity, heat vision, illusion, teleportation, quick healing, laser vision, gravity, electricity, sonics, vacuum, plasma, magnetism, fire resistance, ice resistance, mind reading, shape shifting, darkness, plant control, molecular disruption, chain lightning, cyclone, density control, chameleon, accuracy, Rahi control, insect control, stasis field, limited invulnerability, power scream, dodge, silence, adaptation, flow, confusion, and sleep. So, first of all, yes, as someone rightly pointed out, half of them are the same thing. That's very there are a lot that are very similar. Like what's fragmentation and disintegration? What's Rahi control versus insect control? Like maybe there's minor differences. A lot of them do have overlap, but Tahu could conceivably have all, if not most of those. And if you're taking this fight as people at their strongest, this has to be factored in because this is probably Tahu at his strongest. But
go ahead.
There is a catch,
A couple.
and this is where we get really annoying. What are the catches, Eldra?
Well, go ahead. You.
No, that was all. I was going to tee it up for you.
Okay.
The catches.
So there are a couple of catches. One, it is understood that Tahu does not actually have all 42 powers. I don't remember what the source on that is. Toa Plastic, you in the Patreon chat mentioned the same. I don't remember where it said. BSO1 isn't citing that. But I do believe that is the case. Tahu does not have all 42. We actually only know of 2 confirmed Rakshi powers that Tahu has access to. Those being Heat Vision and Quick Healing. He does have more. He has more than just those additional 2. We just do not know how many, and we do not know which ones.
Very annoying. Also, I forgot to read a super chat we got earlier from Monarb, and I apologize for that. We really do appreciate the support. Monarb sent us $5, and he said, sometimes Death Battle does do composite versions of characters, so we will probably be seeing a bit of form switching and weaponry switching. So if that is the case, there's a precedent for that, then yeah, we have to factor that in.
That's fair enough.
What go on, Elder.
The biggest potential problem here is that it is debatable as to whether or not Tahu has access to any of these powers. Because even in the citations on Biosector 01, there is uncertainty as to whether or not the power is with the armor or if the power is with Tahu. So this helpful little note says initially, Greg Farshty, the primary author for the series, stated that Tahu absorbed the Krata powers, which means Tahu doesn't need the armor to access the powers. He can discard the armor and still have the cool powers. However, Greg later stated that the armor gave him the powers, not Tahu. And
Thanks, Greg.
it gets even worse because there are two citations for Greg Farshty stating that Tahu absorbed the powers, and those were written at the time Bionicle ended. So they were written in 2010. There are 4 citations where Greg said, no, the armor gives him the power. And those notes were after Bionicle ended. They were like in 2014 through 16 or something along those lines. So, depending on which you go with, Tahu is either stronger than when he was a Toa Nuva, which is also something Greg has said, that if he does have the abilities, Tahu is more powerful than when he was a Toa Nuva. But if you do not give Tahu those powers, then you have one of two options. You either give him the powers if he's wearing the golden armor, and then he doesn't get access to the adaptive armor, as far as I know, or you give him the adaptive armor and also the ability to use an unknown amount of powers, which makes him the strongest he has canonically ever been.
Yeah.
Because we also know, we also do know for sure, Tahu abandoned the golden armor after the final fight. So Tahu has the adaptive armor, it's just whether or not he has the powers is a bit contentious.
It's really annoying that it's so vague because I think the entire debacle is going to pivot around that point, and I can see Death Battle electing to play it safe. You know what I mean? Like if they're not going to presume that which they don't have reason to presume. They're not going to give him all 42. They're not going to even give him most of the 42. They're only going to give him the 2. That's what I imagine.
If it were me in charge of this, I would only give him the 2, but he would get those 2.
Yeah, Toa of Plastic points out and says the idea of the golden armor taking the Rakshi powers was stated in the text of the Journey's End serial/book, but the specifics about which powers were absorbed are all through Greg Q&A. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, for Bionicle, it's gonna be like, which is his most powerful form, and how powerful do we really get? And based on what Monarb said about the form switching, here's my prediction. I think they're gonna not really play it too lore accurate. I think they're gonna have him go through the fight and cycle in order: Mata, Nuva, adaptive armor, golden armor.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know how that'll work out. That's just kind of what I think, and that way everything's represented.
Now, at the same time, I can also see that working against them, because if Death Battle chooses not to let Tahu destroy Rakshi, because if there are no Rakshi in the area, the golden armor is entirely useless. It has no practical purpose against Kai whatsoever. Now, it is also worth noting, Monarb in the Patreon chat posted 2 pictures from the preview, and in these pictures, I can't tell which version of Kai that is, but the version of Tahu that they show is Tahu Nuva, base level Tahu Nuva from 2002.
Yeah.
At which point, there are a couple of win conditions for Kai, namely the destruction of the Nuva symbol and the destruction of the masks.
But if they are going to be cagey about, like, well, we're going to take him in his most powerful form, what if the fight is set after the Borak Call saga, where the Nuva symbol gets taken and then restored, but before the Suva is destroyed? So he's
Yeah.
Tahu Nuva with all the different Kanohi masks.
I mean, really, at that point, Kai would need to somehow figure out a way to destroy the Nuva symbol, or at the very least, the Suva, because the Nuva symbol, and I might be wrong about this, but my understanding is that the Nuva symbol and the masks are held in the Suva. At least
I can think of a few.
I should correct myself. They were at first, because before the Borak Call, they were at the Suvas. Afterwards, they were hidden in different locations.
I can think of a few ways for him to do that. So I think that's certainly an option. But yeah, Tahu, there's a lot of complexity there. I think they're gonna do the form switching, or I think they're gonna have him at peak Nuva form and just not even touch the golden armor because it's too poorly explained and vague.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them straight up ignoring it, to be honest, and being like, well, he needs Rakshi to make it work, and because this is a one-on-one, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you could have him fight after he has it, but if I were to be a betting man, I would say like one of those two things will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Nuva based or no golden armor. Now, Jet594 asks a very, very, very good question. Mask of Time?
That's a good question. I don't think that's going to be a factor. So in the story, Tahu is one of two characters that utilized the Kanohi Vahi, the Mask of Time. Now the thing with the Mask of Time is that it only speeds up and slows down the flow of time in a given area. And it's also extremely hard to control. So the time that Tahu used it, he was trying to slow down the Borak Call from unlocking a thing and freeing the Barag. And the entire time he completely struggled and was basically like held in one place to strictly focus on using the Vahi. So I think if they do give it to him, it is not going to be a huge benefit.
I can see him using it just as like a token way to be like, yeah, he's able to, but like it doesn't really work. Like he's not able to control it, and Kai breaks out of it.
I don't see them wasting the time, personally.
I think if they do go with the Nuva form, I think the odds are higher that it would be included because that was the era in which he used it. But I don't know, we'll see. There's also something else that we have to talk about before we move on to Kai, and that is the Nova Blast.
Yes.
Because I see a lot of people talking about this. A Nova Blast, put simply, according to BSO1 Wiki, is an explosive release of all the elemental energy that a Toa contains. It's a destructive, indiscriminate release of a Toa's elemental powers over a large radius. An average Toa's Nova Blast would encompass an area larger than the city of Metru Nui, which is like the capital city of the Bionicle universe. It's an incredibly powerful thing. To perform a Nova Blast, a Toa builds up their power reserves and enters a state when a Nova Blast is primed without being fully unleashed. It takes willpower to remain in this state, and during this time, It is possible to halt the process, but this requires tremendous effort as the energy that the Toa has built up must quickly be suppressed.
Now,
Yeah.
it is important to note Metro Nui, the city of Metro Nui, is approximately 40.51 miles long and 20.43 miles wide. It's going to be 65.2 kilometers long and 32.88 kilometers wide. So a Nova
Yeah.
Blast can exceed that amount. It can encompass it at the very least.
Yeah. And we have a little description here. Although few Nova Blasts were demonstrated, the specific results of many are known. And for fire specifically, if used underwater and outside the Motonui robot, it vaporizes hundreds of miles of water. If used on land, it creates a massive firestorm, according to Greg.
And that makes a lot of sense.
Um,
We have only canonically seen one instance of a Nova Blast being used, and it was water. And that was Gali Nuva, who completely leveled the entire landscape of Karzani, which I believe was also an island. Just
True.
completely. And in doing that, to pull that off, she absorbed all of the moisture in the air for hundreds of. This says Kyo. I can't remember what a Kyo equals out to in terms of distance. Okay, so 1 Kyo is 0.85 miles.
So basically a mile.
Yeah, so hundreds of miles. And did that.
Cool.
So,
So
yeah.
that's something in Tahu's arsenal. Um, Kai does have an equivalent thing, which we'll talk about later. But for simplicity's sake, both Toa and Ninja have a elemental like mini nuke ability.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Onua in the patron chat asks, "Wait, I thought a Nova Blast was supposed to kill you?" No. It was described that according to the wiki, it says that take a Glatorian for instance, which is the species of the people that made the Toa and all the people in the Motonui robot. Um, Glatorian are capable of performing a Nova Blast. There's points in the story where they're imbued with elemental power. They can do it, but if they did it, they would die because their bodies, being primarily organic like humans, are not made to withstand that amount of energy. The thinking is that because the most of the Bionicle characters are like 85% mechanical, 15% organic, their bodies could tank the explosion and live. But someone who's mostly human would die. And I think that's important in this case because Kai is mostly human. uh, or at least a human analog.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, it is also worth noting that a Nova Blast, when it's used, yeah, the Toa lives, but also it completely uses all power reserves that they have. So once they use it, their power has to recharge.
yeah.
They
So
they're
if
just completely spent. It's
if
also dependent on how much energy they have at that time.
if Tahu uses it in the fight and it doesn't work, he's probably toast. Like it's over at that point.
Unless he
So
absorbs additional fire from somewhere else.
yeah. Speaking of, I can really only think of one other thing before we move on. But I'll turn it to you, Elge. But the thing that I can think of is the concept of absorbing heat. Because we've already mentioned that Tahu can Toa of Fire, they can absorb elements in order to recharge. But I remember there was an instance. Wasn't this first demonstrated by Vakama? Like, am I misremembering, or was there an instance where like Vakama absorbed the heat from the air to make something cold?
Yes.
Was it the furnace in Metrodili when they were hunting for the Morbuzak?
No, well, maybe, but what I recall is when he was fighting that kind of fire creature when they came back to Metro Nui in '05.
Yeah,
In order to
yeah.
defeat it, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he absorbed all of the heat from that area, and that's what beat it. But for what it's worth, BS01 does state Tahu can absorb heat.
Hmm.
So he
Okay.
can absorb heat and flames.
Okay. Cool. Just checking. I remember there being some weird stuff they could do there,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we've pretty well covered Tahu. Do you think there's any points we've missed or kind of predictions you want to kind of like throw down before we shift to Kai?
There's a conversation that's being held in the YouTube live chat that I think is going to be an important factor because it's something that Death Battle factors in a lot. The three big things that they factor in are, of course, power and power set, but also experience and feats. So if Tahu, for instance, can successfully dodge like a laser, then they determine him as being able to dodge like things of an equivalent speed. Does that make sense? So if
It
Tahu,
does. It's my least favorite part of power scaling is this.
I
But
agree.
yes, we have to consider it.
Yes. So keep that in mind because they're going to care a lot about that. Speed is such a big thing. But speed and experience, and it's being talked about in the chat right now, there is a bit of a debate as to whether or not Tahu has more experience than Kai. Because while technically we are familiar with Tahu being over 100,000 years old, all of Bionicle takes place in roughly a year, maybe a year and a half. And Tahu was asleep for 100,000 years and then drifted for 1,000 years. So really, and he lost all of his memories, though to clarify, he did get them back by the end of the story. He did fully get his memory back, is my understanding. So really, how much experience in totality does Tahu have versus Kai? I think that's going to be a very important factor. I think that at the end of the day, Tahu has an equivalent amount of experience, and that's strictly because Ninjago has not done a good job dictating its timeline.
We know it's been a few years though.
But the
That's
problem is
the
we
issue
we
I
don't
have
know
with
how
that.
much time Tahu was awake and training on Artaka before he went to sleep.
Yeah, this is gonna be annoying. You're right. You're right. I don't really know. Um, Good to know. We also need to address the issue of height, and I think, to be honest, I think if we were being authentic, I think the conversation kind of hinges on this point as well. But because this is going to be animated, I really don't know how they're gonna even do it. Like a minifigure versus like a construction Tahu Nuva. Apparently, it's gonna be stop motion animated. I really
looking
don't know how that's gonna go.
looking at the pictures that were posted in the chat, there are very obvious like print and model lines in the Kai figure. So I actually suspect they have custom printed a Kai at a larger scale to be equivalent to whatever they're going to calculate Kai's height is to Tahu. Because canonically, Tahu is 7 feet tall. There's some slight variation with Toa height, but 7 feet is the standard height.
Yeah.
Let me double check that real fast.
People were saying that like Kai's height has never been explicitly stated, but in Fortnite at the very least he was 6 feet, and you could reasonably estimate he's just like an average height.
Which would not be
Um,
6 feet.
no, it would
So
be 5 feet 7 inches.
yeah,
So
so most Toa are about the same height, 1.6 bio, which is 7.2 feet, or 2.19 meters.
yeah, so that's important for reasons I'm gonna get to in just a minute. Um, but just to point a few things out, Kajef10 in the YouTube chat, Ninjago's lasted at least a decade with the time skips, I feel. And yes, there is that. I think over the course of the show, every time they do a time skip, you could reasonably infer it's like half a year to a year. Where it becomes a lot less murky is actually with Dragon's Rising, as Kajef points out. I'm pretty sure Dragon's Rising is a multi-year time skip. Yeah, it's pretty explicitly stated that between Crystallized and Dragon's Rising, and then between the beginning of Dragon's Rising before the merge happens into post merge, people age up from like young children to like teenagers. So we're talking at least like 3 years. And then each season after has about a year in between each other.
Really?
So we're on season 4. Yeah, we explicitly know season 1 to season 2 because I mean we're kind of getting the Ninjago, but there was a mech short that was talking about the annual mech racing competition, and they have it again in season 2, or the season 2 shorts specifically. The same competition, I believe, happens in season. Well, I don't want to get into spoilers for Dragon's Rising season 4 part 2, which hasn't aired yet, but suffice to say, I think another year happens
Okay.
at some point, and you can also chart it through the aging of the ninja's dragon Ryu as well. Um, we're looking at multiple years for Dragon's Rising, beginning to end. It's probably at least 6 years, just for that show alone. Um, Yeah. Ethan M says the merge is 5 years. It would not surprise me. I haven't explicitly seen that number stated, but that's about what I would infer from the ages of like Eren and Sora and then, post merge. But if anybody has like a direct quote where they've stated as much, I would love to see that.
All
But
right. So let me see. So I'm looking at the timeline on BSO1. So 100,000 years ago, the Toamata are created. And they are. Oh wow, they did months long training under Hydraxon. Then they're sent to Cardanui to become Avoca Tamers, Eradicators. And that they're there for months. And
okay.
then they go to sleep for 100,000 years. And then they drift for 1,000. And then they kind of recoup their experience from there.
Yeah.
Also,
Fair enough.
Nuri on LJ sometimes talks like Christopher Walken. I'm sorry, I'm in thought. I'm thinking about things. It stops my progress.
You're all good. So, do we want to move on to Kai?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I do
Not
not
that we
know a
can't.
lot about Kai.
I mean, you've watched all of Ninjago except the last season, so
Yeah.
you know a good deal.
No, that's fair.
Um, I've definitely seen it more than you, I think, and I've seen it more recently, so I'll try to help fill in the gaps where we can.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I kind of want to start in a different place because we're gonna get into all the power ups and stuff. But if I'm being honest, I think again, it kind of similar to the golden armor or Tahu's proto steel ranged weapon adapting to a gun. Uh, I I don't think they're gonna do this because it would kind of trivialize the matchup, but we have to have this conversation. So the height thing. The height thing is important because, well, okay, Tahu's 7 feet, Kai's anywhere from like 5.5 to 6 feet, depending on where you would put the scale. Cool. Here's the issue. If we're gonna go through what Tahu is or isn't allowed to bring into a battle, and we go golden armor, Nuva forms, Nuva masks, adaptive armor, yada 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 yada. We got to talk about mechs. um, and here's where this conversation kind of gets really peculiar. Um, Kai's had a lot of mechs over
Just
the years of Ninjago.
just looking at the wiki page, he has had 4
That 4 that belong specifically to him.
that are listed under his page as his. He got the fire mech, which that was, I don't remember the season, but it's when they went up to the Temple of Light.
Yeah.
So he had that one. He had the mech jet, and that was from, oh, shoot, I'm so forgetting the names of these seasons. This is very frustrating. The video game one.
Prime Empire.
Thank you. He had the elemental fire mech, and that's from Dragon's Rising, and he had the climber mech. And arguably, whatever other mech is coming out this year, because there's another mech
Yeah,
that he has.
there is. And it's the Titan mechs, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing with the Titan mechs, that's from a spin-off show slash pilot, maybe for a new show. We haven't even seen that in story yet, so I'm not really gonna factor that in. Because my question is less to do with the powers of the mechs and more the scale. And I think the climber mech can get the point across perfectly fine. So if we're looking at the fire mech, which is from the Stone Army wave, it is approximately 3 times Kai's height. We can see this quite plainly. Maybe a little less than 3, maybe more like 2.5 to 2 if we factor out the little spikes on top, which kind of fluff up the height a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're being honest with ourselves, that alone is like 18 feet tall. And then we gotta look at the climber mech, which
Tremendously big.
I don't own it, and it is at an angle on the box art. I don't know if anybody has like a picture of the climber mech like in a review form where we can kind of like take a look at maybe how it scales to a minifigure. But I mean, just kind of eyeballing it, you could put it in the range of like 8 times his height, which would be 48 feet tall. So, that's a thing.
Yeah.
We kind of gotta consider it, right?
And a lot of people are saying, I'm seeing a handful, I suppose. A handful of people are saying, oh, we'll give Tahu the Exotoa. That would be a huge problem. The Exotoa inhibits elemental power when a Toa is using it. Tahu would get in that thing, and it's an instant nerf. That would be a very bad idea.
It just continues the thing I was talking about earlier, where like you think Tahu gets upgrades, but they always come with some kind of a caveat or like a downside. The Exotoa is another fantastic example of that, because you think, oh yeah, cool mech, but like, what does he get? Explosives? Well, Kai gets explosives, and he can freely use his elemental powers.
Yeah.
So, in my eyes, if Kai is allowed to have a mech, this conversation gets a lot simpler, I think, because Tahu could literally be like stepped on.
Yeah.
Um, quite frankly. Now, do we think he's gonna get a mech? And that I don't know because he should. If we're talking about power scaling, he absolutely should. The ninja use mechs a lot. It would be a downgrade to not have him use one. But if the theory is right and they've printed like a larger Tahu, a larger Kai minifigure to be to scale with Tahu for the stop motion animation, they probably wouldn't be able to then scale up the mechs accordingly unless they do some like VFX for the fight.
Yeah, I mean, unless they make a small scale Tahu. In that case, they don't need to worry about
Maybe,
it.
maybe, but I can. Very, very nice, Modern. We had the same realization. Um, so yeah, I mean, just looking at that without doing exact measurements, I would say like at least 6 to 7 times. So anywhere from like anywhere from 36 to 42, you could say 42 feet. That is. Um, but yeah, I can see them not bothering because it would kind of make it too difficult to quantify or to portray in their fight. But like they kind of should. Mechs are very integral to the ninjas' like fighting style. They use them to fight larger enemies. If they used a mech to fight, like I mean, any of the creatures in the story, they fought the preeminent, random guys when they were in the climber mechs. Why not use it for Tahu? Unless maybe he just doesn't have access to one. Like maybe the premise of the fight, maybe they're like teleported to like a neutral play zone and like it's not like Kai builds his mechs, they're built for him by other people, like engineers in the show.
Mhm.
Maybe they could be like, "Oh, the engineers aren't present in this fight. It's a one-on-one fight, so Kai wouldn't have a mech." Shrug.
I don't think they're gonna give him any mechs.
Really?
I don't think they will. I think because the mechs are made, and specifically for the reason you stated, the mechs are made for him, but they aren't necessarily like a key part of his identity at any significant point in time. Like he
Yeah.
changes them out pretty regularly. Now you could say that that argument would be why they wouldn't give Tahu his golden armor or his adaptive armor. But I do think that if they nix the golden or adaptive, they will nix the mechs too.
Yeah. Maybe. We have two super chats. One from Delrin Plays, $5. Thank you so much. Says Kai has like four mechs. Tahu should just steal one of his. Well, were it so easy, and if they had minifigure Tahu representation, totally could.
Yeah.
And then Corey B3628. I believe that's 10 Australian dollars. Am I correct, Elge? I think that's what that
I'm
means.
not sure.
He says, "Hey, I've listened to every Knack and J app multiple times since discovering it in 2020. It got me through uni, countless chores, and many road trips. You both have had a huge impact on me, so thanks. That's very kind."
Thank you so much.
Uh,
I'm glad that we've been able to have such a positive impact.
Legitimately, like it's no secret we don't do as much stuff on this channel nowadays. But like hearing that is always a fantastic boost of morale. Thank you. It really does mean a lot. I'm glad you get some fun out of it. And hopefully this is still fun. So, um, there are two things about the mechs, which I had a thought of. I want to mention. Delrum Plays says, "Just watch Kai pulls out a mech and Tahu's adaptive armor becomes mech." The armor wouldn't because it adapts to the environment, not the opponent. The launcher, though, apparently adapts to the opponent. So it could totally become like an EMP launcher, or some kind of like electromagnetic, like destabilizing thing that would immediately counter Kai's mech.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, there's a canon basis for that, which I legit didn't know until today. Um, And then Player Master 15 asks, what about the techno blade? Would that affect Tahu? And for refresher, what the Technoblade is are the weapons the ninja obtained at Borg Tower in Rebooted. They can, quote, hack into systems, which allows ordinary machinery to transform into ninja vehicles. Um, Say they work as weapons and hacking devices. But I do not think it would actually apply here because, according to the wiki anyway, they can hit a machine run by Borg Industries to hack it, meaning the main computer, also known as the Digiverse, can no longer control it. So I think it's specifically for like Borg stuff, and it probably would not it would not work with like alternate universe machines or generic machines. But good thinking. Very good thought.
There's also another thought that can one of those blades, can it affect like a oh gosh, what are they called? A ninjoid.
Um, Probably. I forget if it was ever explicitly shown, but probably. But the Nindroids were made by Borg Industries, at least in that season they were. I don't think it was ever used on Zane, but like the army of Nindroids was mass produced by Borg.
Okay.
So yeah, I kind of jumped the gun with the mech thing, but like that's important to talk about before we even get to abilities. I think.
Mm-hmm.
So let us consult the Ninjago wiki, which for our sake I sure hope is accurate. And we're going to go to Kai's page and we're gonna scroll all the way down to weapons and abilities.
And ooh, it is a lengthy list.
It is much lengthier than Tahu's, because the thing about Ninjago has had multiple consecutive like tiers of power. They have a lot of like niche abilities which will show up for like a season or two and then disappear. But if they really do this kind of hybridized approach of rolling together a bunch of different like forms and stuff, you could see all of these potentially. Like I see people in the chat, Kajef mentioning the Sword of Sanctuary for a bit, which he had in season 5, which literally let him see the future
Mm-hmm.
in fights. Could totally see that happening. Wouldn't rule it out. But let's read this list. His abilities: fire. Being the elemental master of fire, Kai can manipulate, generate, negate, and control fire. He can create fire with his own hands and either throw it, use it as boxing gloves, or unleash a burst of flames towards his opponents. He also can withstand high temperatures and walk through fire unharmed. He also has the ability to move fire at will. Great start there.
All right. So fire doesn't work on Kai, and it dubiously could work on Tahu, but unlikely.
Yeah,
So
if he
base
really
level
is able to,
control probably not going to be the winning factor here.
if he's straight up able to walk through it unharmed, then I would say we're definitely looking at like full immune territory.
Yeah.
Mm.
No, I agree.
There's some subcategories. Smoke emission. Kai can create small blasts of smoke with his hands, as shown in Back in Action, possibly non-canon. Let's see what Back in Action is. Oh, it's a chapter book for early reading series. I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility, even if that is non-canon. That's what I was thinking earlier when I was like, I could imagine Kai like using his fire to do like a ninja smoke cloud kind of thing, and then if they do have Tahumata representation at all, or Nuva, Tahu could use like the Mask of X-ray vision to like see through it and do a fun thing that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Spinjitzu. Kai knows and can perform Spinjitzu, with his version channeling fire. So now let's do this deep dive. What is Spinjitzu? Let's see. Spinjitzu is a close combat martial arts technique. It involves the user tapping into their inner balance while spinning rapidly, creating a tornado-like vortex of energy around themselves. It's the art of rotation, which adds force and momentum to blows. Makes sense. And then they list like all the different times it's appeared in the series. But what if... I'm trying to look for a more detailed... Yeah, here we go. Abilities. Spinjitzu grants the user the ability to create a vortex of energy and color. It allows quick perception and the ability to hit or spin enemies in the process. It's visible that these tornadoes are made of small elemental particles, which, when sped up, form a Spinjitzu tornado. You get a speed boost. The Spinjitzu tornado can move horizontally across surfaces at a rapid pace. You get an aerial boost, where you can do like a boost to increase the reach of a jump. Very effective barehanded. Spinjitzu is effective in deflecting elemental powers, as Lloyd manages to shield Akita from Zane's forbidden Spinjitzu ice. Attraction and repulsion. Spinjitzu allows the user to attract people and repel them. Attack while spinning. Can be used to suck objects into the Spinjitzu vortex and then telepathically throw them. Spinjitzu can also move downward depending on the situation. Can throw opponents outside of the Spinjitzu tornado at an enhanced rate. That's about it. Oh, the user still has the ability to wield weapons properly in combat. So, yeah, that's a lot.
We've seen like initial Spinjitzu when Jay pulled it off. The tornado is spinning around him, but he's still also moving independently of it with his nunchucks in the pilots. So, it's a very powerful technique.
Now, it does specify here in the weaknesses section, extreme force. On rare occasions, people with extreme forces or larger opponents can counter Spinjitzu, such as when Dogshank managed to break Lloyd's Spinjitzu tornado, a feat that was also shown by Pythor. Griefbringer was able to swipe Kai out of his Spinjitzu tornado, and Roz also managed to disrupt Lloyd's Spinjitzu by using the icon of the Source Dragon of Strength. So those are all like very extreme examples. But I think we would have to look at Tahu versus Dogshank there and be like, is Tahu stronger than Dogshank? I would be willing to bet yes, but who knows for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure, honestly. That's a tough one because on the one hand, Dogshank is Dogshank and is huge. But on the other, Tahu is a robot.
Yeah. And is naturally like heavier and would probably have more like momentum behind the swings, in theory anyway. But who knows? I feel like we've already covered a lot and we're only on like the first heading. Elge, are you on this like wiki page as well? Are you like with me here? Okay. So there's Rising Dragon technique, but from what I recall, Rising Dragon was pretty much only intended to be a counter to Shatterspin. I don't think it has a lot of meaningful application on its own.
Well, the GIF that they have right next to it showing Rising Dragon, it does show it combating Shatterspin, but Kai does Spinjitzu, becomes this kind of fiery dragon, flies into the air, flies around, and also blasts the Shatterspin user with some form of energy. So that's a lot of mobility, and also being Spinjitzu, and also blasting people with flying around.
That's where I think it could come into play, because it does mention elemento kinetic beam emission. ergokinetic wave emission, which is basically just like they project a powerful wave of energy when they manifest their dragon avatar, and then flight. So like, I think if he ever did use that, it would mainly be like a movement tool because the fire beam probably wouldn't affect Tahu much.
No.
But I could see, because I know we were going to talk about air jitsu at some point in here. This to me, in terms of like modern Kai, who absolutely is more powerful than possession era Kai, just because of scaling, this just seems like better air jitsu. Like you're able to have the vertical momentum and the redirection kind of capability of air jitsu without needing to do like a long like crazy wind up, and also have like an offensive capability.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty good. Monarb recommends through a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. You should probably check the page for the element of fire. Oh god.
Oh no.
Dude, I have such a dread in my heart, dude. What's gonna be on this page?
Let's see.
Fire.
Oh my goodness, user abilities. Pyrokinesis, the ability to manipulate, generate, negate, project, and control fire. Pyrokinetic
Oh
absorption.
my
The user
god.
can absorb fire from other sources to attack or defend. Pyrokinetic flight. The user can fly and propel themselves up or forward using fire. Pyrokinetic attacks. Stream generation, blast, wave emission, ball projection, beam emission, bomb generation, bolt projection. Pyrokinetic infusion. The user can infuse themselves or an object with fire to increase the strength of their blows and possibly incinerate and explode anything they touch. Fire strike. Pyrokinetic wall creation, vortex creation, pyrokinetic constructs. The user can create objects out of fire, discs, blades, whips, etc., as seen when Kai created a teapot out of flames in Winds of Change.
Oh, I don't recall that.
I don't either, but it's an older episode. Pyrokinetic welding, elemental shield. Elemental shield. The user can create a fire elemental shield, which gives radiation resistance, such as when you enter the Earth's atmosphere, and space survivability.
Yeah, that's definitely coming into play.
Biopyrokinesis. The user can create and manipulate fire in their body. Anger empowerment. Fire/heat amplification. Fire/heat empowerment. Pyrokinetic/calokinetic immunity? Calo?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know.
Oh, calokinesis. The user can manipulate heat. Ignition, explosive volatile fire manipulation, Nova Flame. As seen with Kai in Just Under the Surface, if the user touches a piece of the weapon of, I don't know what that is. Oh, okay. I don't know what that might be. Spoiler territory, so I'm not going to say anything further.
It is spoiler territory, but it has been released. It's in season 4, part 1. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Is this what you were talking about?
Yeah. Well, yeah, yes and no. I was thinking more Spinjitzu Burst, but I guess there's also this too. So we have two different kind of like mini nuke abilities.
Oh, okay. Typhokinesis, the manipulation of smoke. Magma kinesis, when a user fire combines their powers with a user of earth, they can possibly manipulate and generate magma. So that's the same as Bionicle.
Hold up. I gotta call something out here.
Go for it.
So the main page of Kai mentioned him using like smoke in a non-canon book as like maybe he can control smoke, but then on the fire user ability,
it's Codename Arcturus.
There's direct references to the show where he's able to use smoke. Isn't there an elemental master of smoke?
There is.
Wasn't it Ash?
Yeah, no, it is. Also, Monarch posted the picture of the teapot. It's an illustration of a teapot on the ground.
Yeah, I mean that's a little different.
That's significantly different. That's not a thing. These, I think, are okay. More specifically, this one. There are three others: cooking, and it sounds like Tahu is gonna get cooked. Dragon creation and elemental creation. The last one is the user can create living things or objects out of fire, notably used by Esphira to conjure Firefang and the elemental cobras.
Huh.
Now,
Okay.
they can do stuff with the Scroll of Forbidden Spinjitzu. I do not think that's going to come into play. True
Nor do I.
potential, however,
This absolutely will come into play.
I imagine that this will come into play. So, true potential. A fire user's true potential gives them the ability to pyroflyrogenesis.
Dude, can I just say I love this wiki's like power descriptions.
Dude, the Enesises are crazy. Pyroflyrogenesis. The user can create shields of varying shapes and sizes out of fire, and even generate and surround themselves in a pure fire sphere that allows them to fly, endure high temperatures, and burn a specific target. And then, of course, pyrokinetic body. The user can temporarily transform their body completely into pure fire.
Huh.
Now, listen. If I were to have Tahu eke out a win condition here, it's Kai doing this. It's Kai activating his true potential and becoming fully fire. Because at that point, like Sir Lojan in the Patreon chat says, Tahu just goes, and that's it.
Yeah. It's like absorbs him.
Yeah.
And kills him. Or his adaptive armor becomes like a water hose. I don't know. The
Dude,
adaptive
that is the
launcher.
funniest possible option. I will agree.
Yeah. I will say for this entire page, there's only 2 weaknesses for the element of fire.
Great.
Pyrokinetic/kalokinetic immunity limit. The user's immunity to fire and heat is limited. If they hold on to the flames they've created for too long, it can start to harm them, as seen when Kai began to burn himself in Only One Can Remain.
And that was Tournament of Elements. That
So
is an interesting weakness that I do not believe Tahu has.
yeah, I don't believe so either. And then fireproof creatures/materials. Naturally, fireproof creatures and materials are unaffected by the elemental power of fire. That's it. That's all the weaknesses.
Now, I imagine there have to be other weaknesses specific to an elemental master. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
mean, the number of times they've... Yeah, by all means, do some research in that. I'm gonna cover some of the more niche stuff that I don't think will matter while you do that. So let's jump a little bit, because I see on the very bottom of this abilities page, they talk about higher level powers, like the dragon form, or the Draconis form from Season 4, Part 1, as it's called. Here's the thing. Dragon form is an ability that can be used by any elemental master that possessed one of the 4 elements of creation, or an individual who has dragon blood, turning them into a humanoid dragon. So we're talking about the crystallized form here, where they do the jump up, kick back, whip around, and spin thing, and they're able to become a dragon form. So it does say here in the actual like fire page, like the rest of the users of the elements of creation, fire elementals can unlock their dragon form, although it can only work through a sense of unity and a sequence of movements. I don't know what that means. Obviously, I know the movement thing, but like, what do they mean by a sense of unity?
Are we talking about the crystallized forms?
Crystallized. Like, do you have to be in the group to use it?
I mean,
is that what they're getting at?
Didn't the scroll show 4 ninja?
It did. It did, and if that's true, then it's useless in this case because it's a 1v1.
Yeah.
Um, and then kind of similarly for the Draconis form from Dragon's Rising. Um, I'm sorry, Eldray, I'm gonna have to spoil it for
That's
you.
okay. I'll live. It's
Uh,
my fault.
it's a power that they can tap into only when Lloyd gives it to them. Um, that's
Another
literally
one.
it. Like Lloyd is a battery essentially, and he like bestows power onto the other ninja, so completely useless in a 1v1. And that's currently Kai's like current peak power level is that. Um, but it's only useful when Lloyd's around. So have you found anything worth getting into, Eld?
Not really. So when it talks about general abilities, Elementokinesis is of course the main one. True potential, elemental shields, elemental dragons. They can conjure an elemental dragon, which I do feel would be a factor in this.
I don't see it being much more of a factor than Rising Dragon technique presently, which has kind of power crept the old elemental dragons.
Yeah,
um, but yeah, kind of similar movement, traversal, and like he can outrange Tahu in that way.
yeah. Elemental reactions, which is ill defined. Elemental reactions can be created and used to draw in other power users. It's the primary method the dragon hunters use to attract dragons. Elemental enhancement. So just using nearby elements to enhance yours. Elemental mimicry. Some elemental powers allow transformation, but in this instance, it's that does not factor in. Elementally enhanced martial arts, which we know is a thing. Magic spells, which does not apply here. Source dragon icon creation will not apply here. Oh dear goodness. What?
Oh no.
Dimentio Pylogenesis.
Huh?
Ninjago Wiki. What?
Eldra, I'm scared. What is that?
When used properly, objects comprised of dragon ivory, like the crowns of horns, can open a portal to the nether space.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was in season 2. Like when Kai got freed
Oh,
from the
okay.
yeah, it was irrelevant to
Okay,
this.
gotcha. So weaknesses. You have Venge Stone, Chrono Steel, Dragon Ivory, Magic, Corrupted Ice, Source Energy Dependency, and Weapon of Desolation. So nothing that would factor into this fight, because Tahu isn't going to have any of that.
Yeah. In addition, to take it because I was gonna get into Kai's like physical abilities, but a lot of people in the YouTube chat are pointing things out that I do want to briefly address. Kai does have his own version of the golden armor. Because if we're talking about like people at their most powerful, there was a moment in Tournament of Elements where Elemental Master Chin had a staff that he was able to suck up the power of all the elemental masters, and Kai did wield this for a very brief time.
True.
And for the sake of clarity, the powers that were in it. Do we have a list? The wiki does not.
Oh, I'm sure
Oh, wait,
we
here we go. Here
do.
we go. So this, yeah, I found it. Here's the powers that were in the staff at the time when Kai had it. It was Amber, which I
Mimicry
believe is just
powers.
absorption. Yeah, mimicry. So not really relevant here. Ice, earth, lightning, fire, metal, sound, smoke, form, like shape shifting, shadow, light, mind, gravity, nature, poison, speed, and life. because it also had Lloyd's power too at that point. Uh, Not as many as the Rakshi powers. I would say maybe a bit more useful than a lot of their Rakshi powers, and certainly more consistent. With Tahu, I think you could make an argument and as to which powers he had. With that moment in time for Kai, you know exactly which powers he had.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't really think they'll touch that because it's kind of obscure. But if they did, I'm sweating. I'm sweating here, fellas.
I don't
Um,
know. I don't think this is gonna factor in at all.
Additionally, I know I briefly mentioned it earlier, but just for clarity, there was a time in Possession where Kai wielded a sword called the Sword of Sanctuary for a pretty significant amount of time. The Sword of Sanctuary, quite literally, you can see the future of your opponent's next attack. So, like, if you're looking at it while you're fighting, it shows you what's going to happen in the next few seconds. Incredibly potent sword.
Yeah.
Will it feature? Probably not.
I
But yeah,
cannot imagine it makes an appearance in this. That would be really weird, kind of out of left field. You know what I mean?
I get what you mean for sure. But Kai does have. He has a lot of experience. And if they're going off like feats and stuff, I think we do need to talk about his fighting history. Elge, do you want to read the expert combatant section on the wiki here?
Yes. Even before his ninja training, Kai is a competent fighter, wielding a sword against the Skulkin when they attack the blacksmith shop. Kai is also capable of performing hand-to-hand combat against Serpentine, Stone Warriors, and Ninjroids. Kai managed to fight Karloff and Ash in the Tournament of Elements. Although Kai lost twice against Karloff, he still managed to put up a fight and had the upper hand in the first half of both fights. In his fight with Ash, Kai mostly fought using his ninja training skills. Once Kai started to use his powers, he managed to defeat Ash. Kai also managed to take on Moro while he was in Lloyd's body. Kai also managed to go toe-to-toe. Okay, is this just a breakdown of the people he's fought? This isn't actually talking about his
Yes.
capabilities. But you know what?
Yeah.
No, this is going to be important because, again, Death Battle loves to use comparison points. So, I'll
Yeah.
continue. Kai also managed to go toe-to-toe with both Time Twins Crux and Acronix, the Hands of Time, alongside his sister. Kai also managed to fight Kalmar in a moving truck. He's doing a lot of managing. He also managed to have the upper hand against his fight with Asphira before Pythor intervened to restrain him. Years later after the merge, Kai's skills improved to the point where he managed to fight the Wolf Warriors and the new Master, Smoke, Cinder, and even predict his attacks. Once Kai learned the Rising Dragon technique, he managed to outmatch Cinder again. After escaping the Nether Space, Kai made a remarkable fight performance, managing to hold Noct, who had stolen all the powers from the Tournament of Sources at the time, and temporarily bring him down in the first half of their fight.
That's the important bit they're going to call, too.
Yeah.
Because, for clarity again, Noct is kind of like a similar to what happened where Kai had the staff, except Noct had even more powers. He had Earth, Ice, Life, Lightning, Figment, Heat, Light, Reflex, Shockwave, Size, Sound, Water, and Wind. And Kai was like holding him off like pretty well. I don't think he even like got hit that much. Um, so like that's his kind of more modern showing. Definitely the most impressive like bit of combat he's seen in like the modern era. Um, Now there are a lot of things that Kai has done that I think Death Battle will draw to, and here's where I would encourage anyone in the chat to kind of offer these up because I sure am not going to know them. Stuff like I saw someone make reference to the fact that Kai has survived like the force of a black hole, and I struggle to remember what that's in reference to. Maybe when they went to space, um, or maybe the nether space. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a
But
tough one. I don't know.
and this is the part that's really gonna annoy me because we don't know. Like you can do things like combat abilities pretty well, or like strengths, weaknesses, um, even like certain opponents and their abilities. When you get into like environmental stuff and like physics, I really don't like comparing between multiple fictional universes because we don't know like that the mathematical pressure of a black hole is the same in Ninjago as it is in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's much less. I don't know.
Yeah, but that will
But
likely be a factor.
yeah. So like what Ethan M21 says, Kai dodged a laser in season 3, so they're absolutely scaling him faster than light and speed.
And because
Uh,
Tahu has heat vision, if they use that, it will be ineffective. Kai will dodge it.
and then Ethan M also says Kai can generate fire in space, so his flames don't require the normal requirements of fire.
Ooh.
Feels bad, dude.
Um, there are a couple of super chats that we missed.
Yes, my bad. I keep missing those because we're getting like lost in the wiki sauce. Um, Delrin plays. Uh, I thought Meso reading out the rock she powers was something, but then y'all got to the Ninjago element of fire page. Yeah, thank you, Delrin plays. $5. Absolutely, that is. Yeah, my mind got blown about that. And then the Borok Lord, $20. Thank you, as always. He says, the battle between Toa and Ninja ends in a fiery explosion. Smoke fills the arena. As it clears, an H illuminates the field. Standing over the broken bodies of Tahu and Kai is the true winner, the other red one, William Furno.
This was just his mission trial.
True. It was his mission trial. You're so right. Thank you guys. And then another one from Delrin plays. $5. Bionicle list of crazy powers with debilitating caveats. Ninjago random BS go. Yeah, pretty much. The issue is Bionicle has some difficult to define stuff, but they usually try. Like they tried to be like, oh, this is really powerful, but it has a weakness. The specifics of that weakness are a little vague for my liking, but at least it's kind of there. Ninjago doesn't really have a lot of that. Ninjago is just like techniques, and they're just good. You know, they're just good, and they're just added to the ninja's arsenal over time, and they can do all these things. And the series has gone on for so long that there's overlap in their abilities, and so they've kind of stopped. Like, we didn't even get into air jitsu because like why would we? It's been like
Yeah.
power crept by rising dragon technique, or they can literally fly with their elemental dragons too. There's like 4 different ways they can achieve flight, so does it really matter, you know? um so all that is to say, yeesh.
I'm
um
gonna be honest. I because I think we're gonna be wrapping up here in a moment because we've kind of gone through everything, but we
yeah.
should give our final predictions after reading all of this. Unless there's anything else we should
Mhm.
go over regarding Kai and his power set or equipment.
I wish I remembered more of like the environmental feats because I'm guessing that's what's gonna come up, but I don't really remember them all that much, so I can't really say it at this point. But I think like the power sets and the abilities, those are key. We spend a lot of time debating like what is Tahu's peak, so I think we need to question like, well, what is Kai's peak?
I
Um,
think Kai's peak is now. I think whatever is
yeah,
current. I haven't seen the most up to date stuff, But bear in mind, Kai now made his way through the, what is it, the land of monsters?
Yeah.
Like he made it through that. He's super edgy. He has just a ton of combat experience. He has all of these crazy elemental techniques. He can use Rising Dragon. He can use regular Spinjitzu. I think right now, Kai is at his strongest. Currently, base. I think what's really going to make a difference for Kai is going to be whatever equipment or tools he get. Super chat $2 from Moner. Are you guys going to talk about the Sword of Fire? I wasn't planning to because, to be totally honest, I don't know what it does. But taking a look,
The wiki isn't that helpful.
okay, never mind. It lets him have a bike, and he can turn it into a flame sword. So he'll have that. We have seen he will have that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you know more than me, Moner, but at least as a recollection standpoint. Because for the Sword of Fire, I know it is more powerful, I'm sure, because it's like one of the golden weapons of like creation. But like practically in a combat point of view, I struggle to see where it differentiates from like Tahu's fire sword. Like really. It probably is stronger, but like how much stronger? And like from an ability standpoint, the Sword of Fire is able to engulf its blade in flames and shoot fireballs at enemies or objects. It can also transform into the blade cycle. So like, yeah, I mean, I could see an annoying thing happening where like they get into a sword fight and maybe the Sword of Fire is able to cut through Tahu's flame sword. And that would probably annoy me because like it probably is a stronger weapon, but I don't really recall it doing that in the actual show. It just kind of like was mainly used as a ranged weapon, if I remember correctly, or like got into sword fight clashes with people. So, um, for Zeostorm, I do think we have to discount Kai's Draconis form in this conversation because it's only a thing he can do when Lloyd is like supercharging him. Um, so that's not really going to factor here. And then Ronald Starr says it was used by the first Spinjitzu master to split Ninjago into two. So, a lot. Was that the Sword of Fire specifically? Or was it the golden weapons combined? Because if it's the Sword of Fire specifically, yeah, I would agree with you. But I don't recall that. The wiki just says the first Spinjitzu master used his powers to split the land of Ninjago in half, and the Sword of Fire was just like one part of that. I don't know that it was the sword itself. And then also the Baraki talk show. Cool to see you guys here. Says another important Kai feat. He survived not being chosen as the Golden Ninja, which shows insane levels of emotional durability. Tahu would crash out like Tai Lung if that happened to him. Absolutely true.
Yeah, probably. Maybe not. Maybe he's matured by this point.
I think end of Bionicle Tahu and modern Ninjago Kai are both very mature. I think they've like overcome their bouts of anger.
Yeah, I agree.
And Fabulous Fish in the comments. Can Kai survive a Nova Blast? Based on our reading earlier, I'd say the odds are pretty likely that Kai could just absorb or outright negate it. Yeah. But I would say the same about Kai's abilities as well. Like whatever he could do, Tahu probably could just absorb in terms of fire. I don't really see the battle being decided by fire. I see it being decided by like their other abilities, like the mask powers, the Rakshi abilities, the mechs, the adaptive armor, the adaptive launcher, stuff like that. And then as for the Vahi, LJ says no. I think the Vahi will play a role, but
I
I
do
think
not
it
think
will.
we'll see the Vahi.
I think we will, but I think it will be exactly how it was in story, where it will be tried and then not work. um, that's what I think, legitimately.
Yeah.
Uh, and there was one other thing I wanted to mention, which I just reminded myself before we kind of wrap this up with predictions. I want to mention the Spinjitzu burst.
Yeah,
So,
remind me of this because I am drawing a blank here.
so on another level of the constantly escalating weird powers in Ninjago, the Spinjitzu Burst was an ability that has only been referenced in one season. It was Master of the Mountain,
Oh.
um, where it was used by Cole. And what it is, the Spinjitzu Burst is a powerful form of Spinjitzu that can be used by an elemental master who's surrounded by their elemental powers. That is the caveat. So it has to be like a geographical thing. Like you have to be surrounded by the powers. And what it does specifically, I was trying to post a GIF in the patron chat, but it was kind of weird. Let me try again. Yeah, whatever. It's not working. I'll just describe it. Um, According to the wiki, the Spinjitzu Burst abilities. Burst grants the user the ability to create a tornado of energy around themselves while spinning. The user is under a small elemental fire in the ground, then they smash the ground, allowing quick perception and the ability to attract or repel opponents. While inside the Spinjitzu Burst, the user is able to fly. The user is able to throw opponents outside of the burst. Um, it produced a large shockwave powerful enough to weaken opponents. So, according to the wiki, it's not as crazy as I thought it was. From what I recall in Master of the Mountain, it looked very destructive. It was like 10, 12 times the size of a regular Spinjitzu tornado. And it had like a large degree of force. At like one hit took down Vangelis just with the shockwave alone. And
Mm-hmm.
then Cole was able to grab the skull and like destroy it. Um, Thank you, Monarch. I don't know why it wasn't working for
Oh,
me. What's so funny?
I so I'm like looking through this page. Under weaknesses, one weakness. Everything is strong. Fatigue. The Spinjitzu burst can take a massive toll on the user, requiring much energy to sustain, as seen when Cole collapsed after using the technique. Well, I scroll down to trivia, and something catches my eye. On the TTV channel's Ninjago cast, episode 41, a
Huh.
fan theorized that Nia's true potential was Spinjitzu Burst, due to its similar appearance and Nia being surrounded by her element, water. Tommy Andreasen responded in the live chat that this, quote, has just gotten us to all reconsider that whole thing, end quote. If this really was
Bro.
Nia's Spinjitzu Burst, it would mean an elemental master does not have to know Spinjitzu to use the ability.
That's crazy.
I just am casually reminded that we we have been somewhat following along and being alongside this theme for its run.
That's awesome. I love that actually.
We are the source for a handful of citations on this wiki, which is very that's very kind of them. I'm glad we were able to help somehow.
Agreed. And the reason why I bring up the Spinjitzu burst is because based on the little snippets from the video, especially Tahu's, and also just, I mean, basic aesthetic theming, I would be willing to bet the fight will take place in a fiery area, such as a volcano or a lake of lava or something of that nature. And I could totally see it being able to have the Spinjitzu burst be used in that environment. Or if they fight so much and throw around so much fire that it's just kind of like everywhere. It would not surprise me if it could be used, but there is a wrinkle that I just noticed. It says in the Book of Elemental Powers, which is a canon Ninjago book that was released in September 2021, it was confirmed that the reason the Spinjitzu burst is only known to Earth elementals is because its teachings were forgotten by the other elemental masters sometime after it was made. So, if that's true, then probably it won't factor in.
Yeah.
But I thought that was the equivalent of a Nova Blast for a ninja, but I guess not, maybe. And there was that other thing. What was it? The Nova Flame or whatever that was.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think that will factor in either because the Weapon of Desolation is a thing that like kind of boosts their elemental power to like out of control degrees, and I don't think that's going to factor in here
I agree.
whatsoever. So I guess Kai really does not have a reliable Nova Blast comparable ability. I thought he did, but I guess not.
But
Huh?
if he imagine a scenario in which he casually they choose to let him use burst because Tahu does a Nova Blast, meaning that Kai is surrounded by his element.
Yeah, and then he just Uno reverses it.
Yeah.
That could be a really cool finish to the fight, though. You gotta admit,
That
like
would be very
Tahu's all
cool.
weak,
I
and
I,
like
also,
he's
I
like,
love this little exchange in the chat. Green Tornado X. What if they get 1 year of prep? And CPA Full says, then Batman always wins.
true.
Also, good to see you here, man. Thanks for tuning in.
Delrin plays another $5. Thank you so much. Says Tahu uses the Vahi to slow down time so he can comprehend the full Ninjago timeline and all the BS being thrown at him. Yeah, I mean, we didn't even get into like because I bet there's gonna be some dumb thing to where like how strong are Ninjago katanas? You know, like can they cut through proto steel? Can they cut through like which is
I mean,
stronger?
I'm sure they're
I
just
bet there's
that's gonna wash out. They're just gonna say, hey, they're gonna be comparable for the sake of this, because there's nothing to suggest like Proto Steel is the best metal in Bionicle, but we have no real idea what metals Ninjago tools are made out of. So,
yeah.
I mean, unless they're steel. If they're steel, then yeah, Proto Steel tools are going to trounce steel tools probably any day. There's an interesting comment, and I think we should probably bridge into, unless you have anything more to say about Kai, because I don't.
No, I'm pretty much done.
Okay. We'll bridge into predictions, but Ronald Starr in the YouTube live chat says, based on the discussions on r/death battle, we've concluded that while Tahu has a lot of win conditions, Kai literally doesn't have to do anything for Tahu to use them, and Kai only has to hit him once.
Oof.
Which is brutal.
Yeah. I
So-
will say. Do you want to go first?
No,
or
no,
me?
I was actually going to say, you go ahead and go first.
So when I first heard this, I thought that it was a pretty slam dunk thing that Tahu would win. But the more I think about it, and the more I think of the arsenal that they have, Tahu does not have as much going for him as I thought. My first thing was my biggest thing was height and the fact that Kai is like a normal human, whereas Tahu is like enhanced by his biology and the mechanical component. But then I started thinking about mechs, and then that seemed like less of a deal to me. It mattered less and less the more I thought about it. So then I was thinking about tool sets and like the golden armor, but that has way more caveats than I thought it did. Like I was not aware of the weirdness with Greg and like does he have the powers, does he not, being reluctant to commit to how many Rakshi were actually there, or like what types, probably because he didn't want to make Tahu too overpowered. Um, but like because we can't really quantify that, we can't assume one way or the other. And I think it's generally safer to assume not rather than most. I think I did learn some things. I think the adaptive armor plays a big role because Tahu's, if it's a treacherous area, he's getting flight at base, whereas flight is an ability that like Kai has to actively tap into and use and do like a technique where he has to do some motion, which leaves him vulnerable for a few seconds. Like Tahu's probably just gonna have like built-in jets or whatever from his Mystica form at
Mm-hmm.
base, I would imagine. That's a cool thing. I don't really see the masks being a huge deal because I would be willing to bet that if he's in his Nuva form, they're just gonna give him the masks. They're not gonna remark about how they were destroyed, um, since they do things like making the characters at their most powerful forms. But I don't know, man. I just get a bad feeling. There's too many ways for Kai to take it. If he has a mech, it's over, right? The ability set in general seems crazy. And based on the power scaling methods that they use, which is like the feat based system, I've heard terms like star level, galaxy level, planet level being thrown around. I can already predict Kai's going to win based on levels like those. I do think my vote, unfortunately, has to go to Kai for those reasons.
Yeah. I I'm sorry, I'm just reading some funny comments in the YouTube live chat. Someone is very new here. In any case, um, I still think there's a really good chance. I do think that Tahu has stuff he can use and he can effectively utilize in this situation. I think there are a lot of win conditions, but it is really going to depend on what he is given. I think if he has if he has adaptive armor and he has golden armor powers, I think Tahu wins. I think that if it's base Tahu Nuva versus current Kai, I think Kai wins. And at the very least, I think that if it's base or current Kai, current base level Kai versus Tahu with golden armor powers and adaptive armor, I think it's close, but I think it tips in the scale of Tahu. But if it's just Tahu Nuva or Tahu without golden armor powers, I think Kai's experience and his combat abilities, I think they give Kai the win. So at the end of the day, I also agree. I think we're going to watch this fight. It's going to be a lot of fun. I do think Kai is going to win.
Unfortunately, I just think it's going that way. The golden armor would tip the whole thing if there were more details about the golden armor, if he was able to use the Rakshi power set. I think there's just too many ways he could win because of how weird those powers are. He could like use disintegration and the sword of fire would turn to dust. You know, he could use density control. He could shapeshift himself into a giant like monster. But they're not going to do that stuff, especially if there's no canonical like byline that he has those powers.
Yeah,
They're going to err on the side that he doesn't have them.
I agree. I think they're going to try and make it as even as possible. So I think they're going to have base level Tahu Nuva, and I think they might give him his masks at that point. And I think they're going to have a regular Kai. And I think the Kai that we get, depending on when in Ninjago that Kai is from, that is going to make all of the difference. Because if it's Kai from the first 3 seasons, I give it to Tahu. If it is current Kai now, give it to him.
Yeah.
But I also really do want to see the funniest possible outcome, which you've already stated, which is the adaptive armor just gives him the get out of jail free card.
Like it's so weird. Why is that a thing?
Dude,
Why
I don't
go
know.
through the trouble? Because I can't fathom that logic. It's like Greg thought it through. He was like, the armor adapts to the environment, not the opponent. Okay, cool. You thought through a potential problem and then you rectified it. But the launcher does adapt to the opponent? Then doesn't that negate the thing that you thought of? Because, like, now that I think about it, yeah, it did just straight up give them, like, light-based anti-Makuta weapons.
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
why? I don't understand.
there are two super chats I want to read.
By all means.
First is from Trevor Samora for $20. Thank you so, so very much. He says, I came into this expecting an easy Tahu victory, as Bionicle characters have come out favorably against those of other non-LEGO story worlds. But it seems LEGO tends to enjoy making wildly powerful characters and settings. That's very true. And the other is another $20. Thank you so much from Stinky Doodler.
Dude.
Tahu would win because I like him more. Also, he's red, so he's faster, and he has his trusty gun we all know and love.
So true. Thank you, both of you. Very, very much appreciated.
And Ronald Starr clarifies, Death Battle uses the character's strongest version. So there's no way they'd use a pre-tournament Kai. And that is my understanding as well. So I really do think it will be as modern a Kai as possible. And Kai has so many more years of experience over Tahu. He just has arguably a greater control over fire. So I really do think what it's going to come down to is that adaptive armor. Whether Tahu has adaptive armor and quick healing, and which of them gets to use their ultimate move first. Because I think if Tahu uses his Nova Blast at all, if Kai is able to resist it, but at any point goes true potential, I think that gives it to Tahu. But if Tahu doesn't have an opportunity to absorb Kai, I don't think that's even going to matter.
Unfortunately, yeah. And, like, I mean, my bias is showing I want Tahu to win. I'm more of a Bionicle
Oh,
fan
yeah,
than
of
I am a
course. Yeah,
Ninjago fan.
100%. I think that
But, like, we gotta be
that'd
honest.
great.
For as crazy as Bionicle's abilities were, and as much as they ran unchecked, ultimately, Ninjago's gone on for way longer, and they've escalated their power system so much. Like, the golden armor was Bionicle's ultimate escalation, and it was like, wasn't like destroyed or like discarded immediately.
Wait, which one?
The golden armor, it was discarded like immediately. I don't think it was destroyed, but like Tahu stopped wearing it. Right?
Yeah, I mean, not that it would matter, because I mean, it would kind of matter. He discarded it right away. If he had kept it, it would be useless. It can only be used once for something that it no longer is an issue. But we know he got rid of it and got his adaptive armor back.
Yeah. The issue is that as much as Ninjago is a MacGuffin hunt, its abilities aren't, and its upgrades, they aren't tied to like objects. They're not typically. Sometimes they are, like the time blades, the Sword of Sanctuary, blah blah blah. But a lot of their upgrades are intrinsic, and they just kind of stack on top of each other. Someone did mention in the YouTube chat. I do want to make brief mention of this before we end. The reversal time blade.
Oh, dude, Kai gets any of the time blades, it's over.
So
Tahu has no counter for those.
That is the one that Kai did have. He used the reverse time blade on his father, curing him of the time punch. And then Lloyd ordered the ninja to dispose of the blade.
Oh,
and Kai and Nia returned the reversal time blade to the boiling sea for safekeeping. They did not destroy it.
Oh.
So it is very reasonable that does factor in. If the Vahi would factor in, it's entirely possible the reversal blade could factor in.
Yeah, and at that point, it's over.
Yeah.
But we don't have a release date for this yet, do we? For this death battle?
So we don't have a release date, but typically they do monthly. I did kind of I looked into this, not exactly, but like generally speaking, and so far it's been about 9 days. So I would imagine 3 weeks at minimum.
Okay.
So, and then a few other super chats. Thank you guys so much. Delrun plays $5. Perhaps the adaptive weapon has to be a pre-existing weapon rather than fabricating a new unique one. That I don't know. Were the Midax Sky Blasters, did they exist before? And what about the Ninra Ghost Blasters? Let's see what the wiki says. Yes, the Midax Sky Blaster was designed long ago by Artaka.
Which would be
He
why
added
it's
these
part of
weapons.
that arsenal.
He added these weapons to the 3 battle vehicles that he created. The weapon was reproduced by the Ninra Ghosts, and one was sold to the Order of Motonui for use by Brutaka's team to rescue Makuta Mizrix, so it was already in circulation as well at that time. What about the Ninra Ghost Blasters? Probably, I mean...
The Ninra
what
Ghost
am I even talking about?
Blasters are weapons designed by and named after the Ninra Ghosts on Zia, so they are also pre-existing.
Darn. No AK-47 or Glock. Because, yeah, if that is true, then yeah, it would have to be weapons that Artaka would know of.
All right, well, consider a funny possibility, though. Because they have to be, at the very least, pre-existing weapons, and at the very most, weapons that Artaka would be aware of. There are a lot of options that Artaka would be aware of. Kordak blasters, Rotuka launchers, oh goodness, all of the melee weapons that exist, laser lance, a warhammer. If we're talking Rotuka launchers, goodness gracious, though, there are a lot of Rotuka powers.
There are.
Let me see.
Do we want to?
There are all the 6 regular elements: slow, heal, snare, float, snag, lasso, silent, boomerang, loss of all physical coordination, temporarily steal a target's powers, absorb thermal energy from the air and redirects it at a target, paralyzes a target, makes a target temporarily dematerialize. There are a lot more. I could get into them, but
dude, I love Bionicle. Slow, silence, loss of all physical, whatever you said.
Okay, Ronald Starr posted the rules for Death Battle. 1, no prep time, so this will be impromptu. 2, the do not kill rule for characters is removed, which I think both of them have. 3, the character's maximum potential without external help. And 4, as long as there are no contradictions, any media works. Oh no.
That wouldn't really change too much, I think.
I don't think so. I still think it's gonna be a Kai win.
The no external help thing does matter though, because that does disqualify Draconis form, and I think it would disqualify Dragon form as well because of the unity requirement. And those, I think, are Kai's strongest states, even surpassing like the true potential from season 1.
Well then it becomes
and
a
then
question.
it would also disqualify mechs.
It would disqualify mechs. It would likely also disqualify adaptive armor and golden armor, since those were both created for Tahu, their external modifiers for him.
Oh no, I mean...
At which point it would make sense why they're showing Tahu Nuva, because if it's excluding external help, Tahu Nuva is the strongest iteration of Tahu.
That's no good, man. If the adaptive armor is out, he has 0 shot.
Yeah, 100%. No adaptive armor, no chance.
Because in the comments, Uroriel asked, how about Kanoka Launcher? I imagine Reconstitute at random would give Kai a rough time. But, I mean, you're right. But yeah. I don't know. Well, the Borak Lord, another $5. Thank you so much. Says for the Battle of the Green Guys, should they do Lloyd versus Liwa or Lloyd versus Chin Crom and Liwa's body? Lloyd clears every time, tragically.
Wait, which one did you say?
Lloyd.
Yeah, no,
Lloyd
I do
clears
think
every
Lloyd
time.
wins. I would not do another Ninjago versus Bionicle battle. What I would like to do, and listen, folks, grassroots campaigns are important. I do think this should be pitched to the folks that do Death Battle. Liwa versus Zahir from Legend of Korra.
Hmm.
I think that would be immensely entertaining. And the reason why I think a grassroots campaign is important is because Liwa's going to need a voice. Just putting it out
Dude.
there. I'm just saying.
LJ in the big leagues.
Just let them know. But yeah, Liwa versus Zahir I think would be extremely interesting.
For sure. And yeah, good point by Ronald Starr. I doubt they won't give him the golden armor, considering that Kai was given the Sword of Fire, which is destroyed and also was made by, the first Spinjitzu master.
But
I think.
Didn't he remake it? Didn't Kai specifically reforge the Sword of Fire?
Yeah, but we're getting into technicalities at that point.
Well,
He
I
didn't
mean,
make it.
That's not.
But he
Go ahead.
He made it, but he forged it from the golden weapon collision he forged it from the golden armor, which was created from the golden weapon comet, which was made by the first Spinjitzu master.
Oh, but it was also destroyed again in Roots. My bad.
Even still, yes, him remaking it does mean like he has the capacity to do it, but if you go through the chain, like the material was still given to him by the first Spinjitzu master.
Fair enough.
I think the rule about no outside help, I think, means in reference to abilities or powers that rely on other people to create. And yeah, Delrin plays $5. If they need a voice for Liwa, Meso did a great Liwa in your Minago Meso series. I agree. I did a great Liwa.
I don't think you'd ever hear from me again.
My body, my mind.
I think
What's
I would.
happening to me?
Shut up! Shut up! Oh, it's horrible. Ah! I would dematerialize.
Maybe I'm wrong. It's just like I think that's what they're getting at. Like in Dragon Ball Z, for instance, like the fusions. A fusion isn't a power that one person can do. A fusion is a power that requires two people to do. So you can't factor that into a battle, basically. And Ronald Starr, although the dragon form is external help, it seems it can be activated since Death Battle gave it its ultimate form, which requires a similar usage to Joker from Persona 5. Yeah, maybe. Certainly. I'm, Jeff, wouldn't that mean they wouldn't fight at all since they were born from outside help, aka their parents? Peak. Absolutely peak. Yeah, I mean, listen, I get the logic about all the win conditions. I think like the only shot Tahu has is with some hacks. If they give him the golden armor, maybe, depending on how loose they play it. If they give him the adaptive armor, specifically the adaptive ranged weapon, maybe. Those are the best bets he has. At base, I kind of think. Well, I mean, if Kai gets mechs, it's over. If Kai doesn't get mechs, I do think it is closer. But I do still think he will win.
I agree.
That is my prediction.
I think it'll be a good fight. I think it will be potentially close, but I think it's going to Kai.
How do we want to do the follow-up episode, Elge? Do we just want to talk about the results? Or do we want to, would it be fun to do like a reaction maybe,
I mean,
or would that be like frowned upon?
I'm always really worried about reaction content because it's kind of walking a fine line.
Yeah, and we would be
I have some
immersed in
thoughts on
listening
that
to
that
it.
I
Yeah.
think I'll share with you afterwards. But
Cool.
yeah, I think at the very least we should do some follow up. Of course, we will. But yeah, I have some
Okay, we'll
ideas.
talk about it. That being said, I think for now, I don't really know what else we have to meaningfully offer. Lots of people talking about like, well, will the adaptive golden armor be counted? You know, I'm thinking about like, will mechs be counted? These are questions that are kind of hard to answer. But
Mm-hmm.
those are our predictions. That's what we got. Um, I think Kai's got it. I think,
I agree.
but I had a fun talk. I
No, this is
learned some.
yeah.
I learned some things that I did not know and continue to be surprised. Um, Evershadow says $10. Thank you so much as always for your support. Say this isn't entirely related, but is anyone interested in a Bionicle Quake mod? I want to finish one. Would just be a small project. Don't tell Lego. Thank you too. Love you. Thanks for staying cool. We try. Thank
Thank you
you
so much.
for always checking out our stuff and always being so nice. Um, the answer is yes. I think people would be down for basically anything. Just I mean, even you posting your question is too much, I think. Keep stuff on the down low. Like, I'm being facetious. I think asking for interest is fine, but like if you do it, I think it'd be super cool. People would love it. Just please keep it on the down low. Uh, I think people really make mistakes by how things get like broadcast in fandom spaces, and it causes problems. Uh, because it is tradition, even though it is late and we need to end. I am going to give you guys uh 4 questions. Go. Anybody that wants to ask us some questions, because we usually do a Q&A section, either YouTube or patron chat. We'll read either the first 4 we see or the 4 we like the most. Um, but yeah,
And also, I'm gonna end the poll. Who do you think will win? Tahu versus Kai. Tahu wins with 53% of the vote, 45 votes.
nice. Sir Lajon in the patron chat asks, which power system do you prefer, Bionicle or Ninjago? Bionicle, and it isn't close. Not
It
only do I think it's more interesting and nuanced, but it shockingly avoided power creep, like right to the end. I think it got a little crazy with the amount of elements they introduced, but typically things were pretty much always solved by like elements, masks, or weird gimmicks, which is definitely where it left a little bit to be desired. With Ninjago, it's just a little too there's too much stuff contradicts. Stuff isn't really explained super well and doesn't really go away. It just exists in the character's like ability set, and then you wonder why they're not using it. Like for years, we were talking about air jitsu and how weird it was that they had characters doing like platforming or parkour segments when they're supposed to be able to just fly, you know, and that's kind of weird. So for me, it's Bionicle.
Yeah, I agree. I echo that pretty much exactly. It's specifically the definition. Like Bionicle powers are just a lot more focused. It's not
Yeah,
quite
I mean
as in depth or involved as Ninjago.
you could make an argument that they were even defined too much because of how much detail Bionicle has, but I would rather something be defined too much than not be defined enough, personally speaking. That's just the kind of story that I like to follow.
Yeah.
Evershadow, you're cheating by doing a super chat, but thank you so much. They ask, quick question: does Tahu get his canister in this? I don't really know what that would achieve, from a meaningful perspective. So probably not.
I think the important thing we need to ask, it isn't even does Kai get this, does Tahu get that? When the death battle guys go over the backstories and start to describe everything about the characters, are they going to start Tahu's section with gathered friends, listen again to our tale of the Bionicle?
Dude, they better. That'd be so cool. They better do that.
That'd be great.
Um, so then Toa of Plastic, also in the patron chat, asked any thoughts on the current state of the system mech / construction space since you last discussed it. I don't know that much has happened in the space, to be honest with you. I don't really follow the mocking community much presently. To be honest, like from a fandom perspective, outside of my very limited like bubbles, I've been completely detached with Lego. As a product, following like the new set releases, I've also been kind of detached from Lego. Probably the most I've ever been. I don't like the direction they're going. I don't like how expensive everything is. I don't like how much licensed stuff there is. Not really following their products super clearly, but I don't think. I mean, they still have SCCBS stuff. Not that much evolution in the space. I think they've stopped doing the $35 Marvel Construction figures. At least I haven't seen any recently, unless I'm wrong. They did do that big, like, articulated Spider-Man, which was kind of cool, and I thought looked pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty good. Dude, the image you posted yesterday of the 2 One Piece sets was insane. For context, Meso posted 2 One Piece sets on a shelf side by side. One's from the first wave and one's from the second. The first wave set, it's Buggy the Clown's circus tent, 573 pieces, $55. The new one, Showdown with Captain Smoker, 547 pieces, so less, $70.
Yeah, I mean the prices they're just out of control, man.
I agree.
The hobby's imploding, and on another day in another setting, I think it would be kind of worth talking about the current state of Lego. I just don't really know what format that would take, but I have a lot to say about it. I'm definitely entering my my like dark age, I guess you could call it. I see a lot of AFOLs refer to that term, but I think I'm there at mine. It's not that I don't enjoy like the building of the sets, but like I just don't like what they're doing. As far as like construction specifically, I would love to see it still exist. I continue to remain skeptical that they will ever invest in it to enough of a degree to make it successful again. I don't think we're ever gonna see like unique pieces. I don't think we're gonna see like a defined building system. I don't think we're gonna see like meaningful upgrades to existing build systems. I think SCCBS has kind of hit the mark that they're, how should I put it? It's as good as they care to get it. They can make figures that look vaguely like what they're supposed to look like. They can do the giants in One Piece and have them kind of look like the giants. Are they stiff, awkward, blocky figures with no articulation? Yes. Will that ever change? No. And I am deeply sad that the Marvel figures have died.
Oh, are you?
I am, because that was something they were trying to do. You know what I mean? They had a range of characters. It was at an elevated sense of scale. It kind of vaguely resembled the proportions of like a Bionicle figure, much more than like a mech does. I kind of would have liked to see where they went with that. I own like one or two, and I kind of like them. And Dark Takanuva points out you are right. Technically, the template is still being used in the Avengers Doomsday sets. They have a Sentinel, which is basically that template, but it's fixed. It's on like a pedestal, and it's part of like a play display set at a higher price point with like 6 minifigures. So it's not the exact same kind of thing. Either way, that's the answer. I do have a lot more to say, I'm sure. Maybe we could do a special episode at some point. One day revival of the Brick Feed podcast. Um, but I don't know. We'll see one day. And then 2 comments from YouTube I want to pick. But also another super chat from Stinky Doodler. Bionicles, more like Babe-onicles. Am I right? Dude, we're not talking about Rudaka here. Calm
No,
down.
okay.
Let's see. Did we get any YouTube comments? I was too busy like being depressed about Lego. Tyler the Canister. Oh, and yeah, Ever Shadow. I was just joking about the cheating thing with the super chat. We always appreciate super chats. I was just messing around. Um, will the Death Battle guys have an aneurysm trying to understand Bionicle and Ninjago lore and powers simultaneously? Probably. Yes.
I don't know. I feel like they've dealt with worse.
Yeah, maybe. And then oh yeah, that was from Delrin Plays. And then Small Hydragon 8799. Who do you guys like more as a character, Tahu or Kai?
Tahu. We've complained about Kai for years.
Um,
Meso.
I don't know. I feel like
Meso.
I don't know, man.
What are you doing here? You
I
have
don't
been
know.
Kai's greatest critic for years.
I'm not saying Kai doesn't have problems in a narrative sense. Like I think Ninjago has gone on for so long that it's actively like harming its character writing. So I'm not gonna give Kai a pass, but I don't know, man. I'm thinking in terms of moments, in terms of standout moments or likable character moments. Kai has like, well, okay, no. Tahu has like, I don't know, 4 that I could reasonably think of. I like the moment where he was fine with all the Makuta dying.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I like the moment when he didn't get baited by Nektan, which showed his like character growth. And I liked the moment where he like was good. He's ready to like lead the people into a new age. And I like the moment where he made peace with Gali after she saved him from the poison. But I'm not gonna lie, man. I struggle to think of moments where I'm like, wow, I really like Tahu as a character outside of those 4 times. He was genuinely kind of unlikable for a lot of the early years, and then didn't really get a lot of screen time later on to show his growth. But the moments he did get are some of my favorite moments because they're all in like '08 to 2010. Um, Kai, I think, just by virtue of going on longer, Kai certainly had more frustrating, unlikable moments. But if you're talking like ratios, I mean, Dragon's Rising, he's been done incredibly well, and that's going on year 4. Can't really think of any negative Kai moments in Dragon's Rising. Only positives and good character interactions. So I don't know. I think I've turned a leaf.
I can't believe you. I can't believe the betrayal that you've all bore witness to.
The question was just who do you like? You know, I think you could make an argument Tahu's a better character because he's a simpler character with a more clearly defined A to B arc that didn't get reset 3 times. Um, but in terms of who I like more, I mean, admittedly, a lot of it is Vincent Tong, probably too. Like he does a great job. Um, And then one final super chat from Magic Ninja, $2. Thank you so much. Who do you think the other four Toa should fight? I mean, logic would dictate their corresponding ninja, but those would be very slanted fights. I liked Eljay's idea of Liwa versus who was that guy?
Zahir.
Is that here? I think finding other characters from other franchises would be a cool way to kind of mix it up a little bit. As fun as it would be to see like the ninja versus Toa, I think one matchup kind of gives you an idea of how the other ones would go. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because they're kind of comparable. I feel it would be boring.
Hmm. No, I agree.
So
I do think that other franchises open up the possibility for interesting fights. I just don't know necessarily which franchises would be best to pull from, you know? Like Tahu versus Kai is good, Liwa versus Here. But outside of Ninjago and Avatar, what other elemental properties would be good to pit against people?
I really don't know. I'm sure there's others out there, but none I'm immediately familiar with.
Ooh,
Leave
Green
your
Tornado
thoughts.
X. Green Tornado X. Kopaka versus Aokiji. Ooh.
Ooh,
Ooh, that's a good
ooh,
one.
ooh.
Ah, who would win in that?
Aokiji, I think.
You think?
The
Because what can
regeneration factor alone.
but but Aokiji can turn himself into ice. Kopaka controls ice. There's no function Aokiji can ever control Kopaka.
Mm,
Also, for the record, just because I don't think I gave an answer. If there was a
oh
Liwa
yeah.
versus Sahir, which again, ground roots effort, guys, please. Um, Liwa would win.
Wow.
I know, a shocking take from me of all people.
True.
Also, I'm going to throw up another picture just to be funny as we're about to wrap up. It's from the last episode that we did,
Yeah.
where your suggestion was to remake every Bionicle set as a Tahu.
Oh, dude. Let's see. I'm waiting for it to sort of. Oh, there we go. Is this Tahoe? Dude, imagine. Oh, that's so good. Well, this was a fun time. I'm sure we could keep it going because I don't know. I just miss doing podcasts and talking about stuff. But for
Mhm.
now, let's go ahead and end because we're approaching 3 hours. Thank you guys for coming out to listen tonight. This was a blast. Um, as far as what you'll see from us next, probably the follow up. World of Cards Entertainment 199 delaying the stream. Also watched my first anime. Oh, which one did you watch? And if you don't say One Piece, you're banned from the live chat. Um After that, no promises is to win, but before the year's over, I do want to do a '06 retrospective. If you're still down to do that, Elge.
Yeah, I'm done.
I don't know when exactly. This month is kind of stacked for us. We're going to be on some other podcasts, and we're also going to be doing the 100th episode of Ninjago Cast at some point this month over on the Bindo Bricks channel where Ninjago Cast is held nowadays. So go subscribe over there if you aren't already and you like Ninjago. We are going to be doing that at some point. Me and LJ both are going to be there along with a lot of other people.
Oh boy.
um, a lot of other people. We still need to figure out like who exactly and what the structure will be. I almost think doing like a switch in and out kind of system would be best. Like have people on for a bit and then they leave because the alternative would be like having 10, 12 people on at once. And I don't know. We'll talk about it. But that'll be happening at some point this month. So go subscribe. So probably maybe in like September or October we can do the '06 retrospective.
That sounds good to me.
But yeah, you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for listening. It was a blast. Any closing remarks, Elge?
No, I don't got nothing. Just tell me when to hit the music.
All right, go ahead and hit it. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. I am Meso.
I'm LJ.
And streaming to you from a golden beach, this was NINJAGO.